Joe. Welcome back. This is the Ultimate Love Letter. Thank you for joining the conversation. I cannot believe what I am about to share. This happened last night, and immediately I said, I feel like I need to talk about it, but there is no one I can talk to about it except for my mother. And it was too late for me to call her and rant at that point. But by the time I woke up this morning, God had softened my heart, and He let me know that it happened for a reason. And that reason was to share it here. Wow. I don't know who this is for. It's certainly for me because I'm getting it out. Even though it's a bit uncomfortable to get out. You'll understand why in a couple minutes. But I do what God says. And He has informed me this message is for you. I live deeply in harmony with all of life. And now follow me. I am a vegan for the most part. I do dabble every now and again, milk chocolate and things like that. But I am a vegan, first and foremost for my own health. Secondly, for the health of our animals, for our environment. I understand that every living being here has a purpose. And that purpose is to serve God. You can Google the tiniest insect and it will explain the purpose of that insect, whether it's food for other insects, whether it's to create something as a result of their essence. But everything here that God has created has a purpose. So with that in mind, I move about through life with a mission to protect all of it. Weather is serving a purpose. Our plants are serving a purpose. Our insects or animals, you and I, are serving a purpose. And it's all for the benefit of each other, whether we understand it or not. But also it's serving God. As we allow these beings to live out their purpose and their truth, we serve God as a result of serving them and serving each other. What I've noticed that happens as a result of living in harmony is that for the most part, all other living beings pick up that essence as well. I remember someone snapped a pic of me a few years ago. I was in a pool and there was about 7 or 8 bees that were on me as I was in the pool. But I understand the essence is they were simply looking for a safe place to land because they were seeking water. I was submerged in the water. And as I allowed them to land on me, I was not stung, not even once, and I didn't even feel like I would be. They were simply sipping the water that was on my skin, trying to get close to the pool so they can drink from that water. And the people that were surrounded in the pool, this was at a Juneteenth event, so it was dozens of people there. Everyone seemed to be recording and snapping photos. Now, a point came after about 7 or 8 minutes when I had these 7 or 8 bees on me, when I thought more bees were landing, and I was like, okay, enough is enough. Time to go. And I simply submerged deeper in the water and they all flew away. Was not harmed at all. But that is what God says happens when we're living in harmony. He allows the insects, everything around us, to be able to sense that they would be safe in our presence. Also, what happens is God keeps us safe as a result of not attempting to harm another living being. Then God keeps us safe not only in their presence, but in the presence of everything. I am living proof. I put up a post the other day, or a story rather, where a June bug landed on me. And he's absolutely beautiful. Oh my goodness. The colors, the beautiful metallic turquoise of a June bug is just fascinating to me. And so he landed and I was able to capture that in the moment. Of course, you can only imagine how many responses I got of people saying, "Oh, I love June bugs, but nope, you better not land on me." And I get it. I get it. Honestly, I don't even recognize myself because I remember there was a time not too long ago where I would run, I would scurry, thinking, like, "Oh my goodness, a killer beetle. You're disgusting. Shoo you away. Let me kill you. Let me take you out." But as I drew closer to God, God showed me the essence of everything. Everything here is serving Him. He created it. What am I to be afraid of? I know society says we're all to be afraid of these things, but once we draw closer to God, He shows you the truth. There is nothing to fear. I think about Daniel in the lion's den. He was thrown in the den of lions because those thought that the lion would, of course, consume him. But he was thrown because he would not stop praying to God. As we live close to God, as we are worshiping and serving God, then what we're doing essentially is organically, and as a byproduct, we're living in harmony with life. So of course the lions would not touch him. I know we say God protected him, and that is absolutely true. God protected him. God protected him as a result of the harmony Daniel was living in. So in comes my story. I live in a beautiful environment in Hollywood, surrounded by my favorite things: trees, bushes, flowers, plants. It's an oasis. My building, I live in a small courtyard type style building, and it is surrounded by beautiful palm trees. You can kind of see the backdrop of the courtyard behind me if you're watching this on YouTube or Spotify. But the whole building is surrounded by this garden. And the garden serves a beautiful environment for me to live in. It serves for privacy for me. Thank you, God. But I know it's also serving a beautiful environment for other wildlife. Butterflies land here. Birds are circling the garden. I see them in the trees right outside my patio in the morning. I see incredible dragonflies that flock as a result of the lush. Everything is just exploding in abundance and greenery. The warm sun just serves up the environment. And I am in the deepest peace and in the deepest serenity surrounding. I also understand that those aren't the only things that serve that, and those are not the only things that live in this beautiful environment. As the sun is setting, I begin to see another incredible creature that lives among the trees and in these bushes. Mice, rats. And they begin to wake up, just as the sun is going down. And I can sense that they are just rising from their nests. It's interesting because I don't see them at all. Of course, we know they're nocturnal, but we don't see them at all during the day. But oh no, when night falls, they become very active in those trees and in those bushes. And so what I've noticed is the trees are wrapping around a beautiful fence. We live in a beautiful fence courtyard, and as the trees are wrapping around the fence, I have noticed, I've been here 10 years, that the mice, the rats, they use the top of the fence as a bridge to travel from their homes in the bushes and the trees to God knows wherever they're going at night to find food. They never bother me. They don't enter my home. They don't enter the home of my neighbors. Excuse me if you heard that. But they actually stay where they are and just living out their purpose. They actually scurry very far because I know that they want to They want to actually be unseen, go past unnoticed. So they're scurrying across the gates really fast at a dash because they don't want anyone to see them. They don't want to be captured. They don't want to be hurt. They don't want to be harmed in any way. They're just trying to get to where they're going to fulfill their purpose, to feed their bodies so that they can live out their purpose. But as I've noticed through the years how they use the top of the fence, the very fences that I exit at night, fear has creeped in. Like, okay, what happens when I'm using the fence at night and perhaps I don't see them at the top of the fence? When I open the fence, could one fall on me? That's the fear that creeped in. I'll just tell you this, whatever we fear, and this is why it's so important for us not to fear anything, but whatever we fear is what we're saying we believe is possible to happen. And if we believe it's possible to happen, it will certainly happen. In comes my story from last night. I am dog sitting, a beautiful dog. If you heard that rattling in the back, that's the beautiful dog, the beautiful Pomeranian that I'm dog sitting. He was rattling with his bowl. Excuse me if you heard that. But late last night, I know that, his last walk has to be around 10 or 11 p.m. And so I wait until like the last possible hour. And that was literally 10:10 p.m. last night. And as I got him ready for his walk, as soon as I went out to my backyard, we exit through the back garden, I noticed just a deep darkness. My solar lights that are usually on the patio were not on. And that happens as it gets later, sometimes the lights will go out, but I noticed they were not on. And I also noticed a street light that is usually illuminated was not on. So it was like deep dark. And I noticed it. But I know that when we notice things with our mind's eye, for whatever reason, that thing that just makes us go, I noticed that, and I knew my soul was communicating something. I didn't know what, but I knew the deep darkness was showing me something. Perhaps it was showing me to proceed with caution. And so, it did pop in my head, the beautiful mice and rats that use that very gate that I'm about to use as a road, as a highway, if you will. So as we exited the gate, we went out into the darkness. We had a beautiful night stroll. And then about 10 minutes later, we were coming back and I opened the same gate, let the beautiful puppy go in first. And this is what's interesting because the gate was already open. But as I walked through the gate, it happened. A mouse or a rat, I'm feeling like it was a rat because of the heaviness, landed right on my shoulder. And I screamed bloody murder. And it landed for like a split second, but of course I took off running and I screamed, and who knows, of course, I'm sure, yes, he went off running. My poor dog went off running. I was terrified, y'all. I was mortified. I was wearing actually a sarong similar to the one I'm wearing now, so my shoulders were all bare. And I scurried in a corner with my puppy and I knew exactly what happened. Like I could feel the weight of the animal that landed on my shoulder. I could feel his feet, his little sharp claws on my shoulder. Thank God I could sense I was not bitten at all. But it definitely happened. He definitely landed on my shoulder and I was mortified. I ran in the house, asking God why. I immediately jumped back in the shower. I had just got out of shower. I didn't give a damn. I jumped back in the shower, scrubbing my shoulders, scrubbing my body, rinsing my hair, just cleansing my body. And I remember about a year ago, as I was exiting that fence, and this time I remember I was wearing a hat. I feel like it was in the fall or whatnot, so less than a year ago. I remember I was exiting that fence with a friend, and I remember I thought something had landed on my head at that point because I felt like I saw like a flutter of gray and leaves, and I didn't know. I wasn't sure that something landed, but my friend that was there with me said, "No, Joe, nothing landed. There was nothing. There was nothing. It was just trees." But in my head, I felt like there was a little mouse or something that landed on my head. See, this is the fear, y'all. This is the fear. But going back to last night, as I was showering my body, I was thinking back to, yes, a rat landed on my shoulder. I could feel the weight. I could feel his paws, his claws, paws, feet, hands, whatever that was. But then I started thinking, but was it really? Because, last year my friend said nothing happened. But as I was showering my body, I could sense a sensation. It was scratches on my shoulder. As I got out of the shower and I'm drying myself off, I see 3 little scratches. It was like God was saying, no doubt, what landed on you was what you thought. And so now I grabbed the peroxide and I'm, cleaning the scratches off, and I'm just still I'm just mortified. And I'm like, why, God? And I know if God allows anything, it's to serve a purpose. And so thank God, the scratches were very light, but I could feel them. And I know God wanted me to feel them. He wanted me to see them. He wanted me to know it was absolute truth, what had happened. And so as I laid down last night to go to bed, I just kept asking God, why? Why? And then I kept saying, God, that was what the darkness was showing me. The darkness was showing me, like, essentially, prepare yourself. There are beautiful nocturnal beings that are out here living. You know what you see in the night. Prepare yourself. There's an event that's about to take place. I knew immediately I wanted to talk about it, but I knew the only one I could speak to this about, or I thought at the time, was my mother, and it was way too late to call my mom. I can't wait to tell her today. You guys are the first ones that are hearing this. But by the time I woke this morning, God had softened my heart to let me feel the terror that poor rat felt. Like God was saying, essentially, he was saying, as scared as I was, imagine how scared he was. He was simply using a highway that he knows he can use safely. And he was just running for that safety when he realized the safety wasn't there. But there was safety. It was my shoulder that he landed on. But as I screamed and I ran, I could just sense his heart beating too as he ran, like, oh my God, am I caught? Oh my God, am I going to be hurt? So my attention, God does this. God turned my attention away from the fear of, oh my God, this filthy wild animal landed on my shoulder. But he was able to turn my attention to imagine what this being was feeling. He thought for a moment he was caught. He thought for a moment his life was over. Yeah, I have a couple very light scratches and I'm not hurt. But God was serving up a moment and a platform for me to discuss this. I don't know who this is for. Perhaps it's for you. If you're listening, it's for you. But it's interesting what God did overnight, the work he did within me, which is soften my heart to the being. Thank God the being was not hurt. Thank God that poor little rat, probably he almost got a heart attack last night. He didn't want to land on me. He didn't want to land on me. This is what we think. We think that these animals want to hurt us, want to harm us. No, they are just as terrified of us, I imagine, that we are of them, except when they sense the safety because of our harmony that we're living in. But really, he was more terrified than me. And when I observed my shoulder this morning, to my beautiful surprise, there was no damage. Yes, the little scratch marks where he was falling off my shoulder were there, but really there's no penetration. There's nothing oozing out of the scratches. They're very surface level. I think the scratches remain just as God to confirm, like, yep, that happened. And so I did not know that I'd be talking about this today. I thought last night there was no one I could tell on the face of the earth, because I understand how the comment sections go. But I guess the purpose of this message is to say and to encourage, how can we live a little bit more deeper in harmony? I'm not suggesting I want a mouse to fall on me. In fact, I told God, okay, that happened once in my lifetime. It never needs to happen again, ever. And I don't intend for it to. But understand the truth that God protects us from everything. When we learn to live in harmony with Him, then in turn, we are free to live in harmony with everything that's around us. And not only that, but God will allow us to sense the true essence of every living being, that they are here to serve a purpose. They don't want to disturb us any more than we want them to. They want to go unnoticed. They want to live free. They want to live with their families. They want to serve their purpose. They do not want to go seen by us, because they understand that we are, as humans, the most destructive, the most dangerous animals of them all. But God bless the animals that can sense the safety of those that are living in harmony with them. I think that's all. I want to ask you, are you living in harmony with God? Because if you do, then you can relax safely in everything, safely in the waves of life, safely in the waves of the ocean, safely knowing that you will be protected while you're in the ocean. There is no creatures coming to hurt you when you're living in harmony. Living in harmony actually brings the ultimate protection. It brings the ultimate safety. I know I'm living proof. I'm terrified of the ocean. I'm not a great swimmer, but I dive as deep as I can. I free dive in the ocean, and I am here to speak about it because God keeps me safe in those waters. I live in my home. I allow spiders to come in. I don't touch them. I know that they're coming to escape the elements. I know that they're sensing the safety of my home. And so as I let them live in my home, and it's usually only a few days, they just want to escape the extreme heat, the extreme rain. They just want a quiet, peaceful place to sleep, and then they move on when it's time to eat, when it's time to resume their life outdoors. I haven't been bitten once. God will allow you to live just like Daniel did, safely in the lion's den, when we decide that we're going to live in harmony with all of life. Nature is here to serve us and each other. Allow it. Nothing to fear. Thank you so much for joining this convo. I hope nobody tears me up in the comments about this. Oh, I have to mention this though. And this brought me a little bit of comfort also. I remember a while back I saw a post where a woman, a beautiful young girl, had 6 rats on a table and they were climbing up her arm. And I remember thinking, I was mortified for her. But the way she was handling them and the way they were with her, it was just so sweet. But I immediately took to the comments because I thought they were going to be tearing her down in the comments. Not one. I'm not even kidding. I scrolled deep in the comments. Not one was tearing it down. In fact, they were all saying how sweet and how clean rats actually are. I'm not suggesting you keep a rat as a pet. And I'm not suggesting that you deeply engage with wild rats. That's certainly not what I'm suggesting, but I'm suggesting, can we begin to understand that yes, even rats have a purpose, and we are not to fear them. We are to allow them to live out their purpose just like we want to live out ours. All right, now that's it. That's all. Until next time, love yourself, love all animals, love all weather, love God. We'll chat again soon. Bye for now.